A true inspirational story of the power of positive thinking. In the quiet suburbs of a Midwestern American town in the 1950s, there lived a man named Elias Hawthorne. Elias was a hardworking accountant in his mid-40s, the kind of man whose life was as predictable as the tick of his old pocket watch. He had a modest home with a picket fence, a wife named Clara who baked apple pies on Sundays, and 2 teenage children who dreamed of futures brighter than their father's fading one. But beneath the surface of this idyllic existence, Elias was crumbling. For years, he'd been passed over for promotions at the firm where he'd toiled since the Great Depression. His boss, a stern man named Mr. Hargrove, saw Elias as reliable but uninspired, a polite way of saying he lacked the spark to lead. Bills piled up like unspoken regrets, and Elias's nights were haunted by a gnawing fear. What if this is all there is? What if I'm destined to fade into obscurity? Elias's thoughts were a storm of negativity. I'm too old to change, he'd mutter to himself in the mirror each morning, his reflection staring back with hollow eyes. The world doesn't reward dreamers, it crushes them. These words weren't just whispers. They were chains. They held him back from applying for that senior position, from pitching his innovative idea for streamlining the company's outdated ledgers, from even laughing freely at Clara's jokes. His pessimism seeped into his family life, turning dinners into silences and weekends into chores. Clara watched her husband wilt, her heart aching as the man she'd married, the one who once courted her with poetry under the stars, slipped away. One rainy autumn evening in 1952, everything reached a breaking point. Elias arrived home soaked and defeated, clutching a pink slip that wasn't quite a firing but a restructuring notice. The firm was downsizing, and Elias was on the chopping block unless he proved his worth in the next quarter. He collapsed into his armchair, the weight of failure pressing down like the storm outside. Clara, ever the gentle anchor, placed a cup of chamomile tea in his hands and slid a small, unassuming book across the side table. "Elias," she said softly, "a friend at church lent me this. It's by a pastor named Norman Vincent Peale. He calls it The Power of Positive Thinking. I read a chapter last night and, well, maybe it's time we both tried something new." Elias eyed the book skeptically, its blue cover promising miracles he no longer believed in. But with nothing left to lose, he cracked it open that night. The words leaped off the page like forgotten sunlight. Change your thoughts, and you change your world. Peale's stories of ordinary people transforming their lives through faith, visualization, and relentless optimism weren't sermons. They were blueprints. Elias devoured the first chapter, his mind racing. The idea was simple, yet revolutionary. Negative thoughts were like weeds choking a garden. Positive ones were the sunlight and rain that made it bloom. Peale urged readers to affirm their worth daily, to visualize success as if it were already theirs, and to empty their minds of doubt through prayer and quiet reflection. The next morning, Elias began his experiment. Standing before the mirror, he forced out the words that felt foreign on his tongue. "I am capable. I am strong. Today, I will act with confidence." It sounded ridiculous at first, like reciting lines from a bad play, but he persisted, drawing from Peale's exercises, repeating affirmations 3 times, then picturing himself in the boardroom, not shrinking, but shining. At work, instead of slinking to his desk, Elias approached Mr. Hargrove with a tentative smile. "Sir, I've been thinking about the ledger system. What if we—" He pitched his idea, his voice trembling but steady. Hargrove raised an eyebrow, but to Elias's surprise, he didn't dismiss it outright. "Write it up, Hawthorne. Let's see what you've got." As days turned to weeks, Elias wove Peale's principles into the fabric of his life. He started a gratitude journal, scribbling 3 things each night that had gone right, no matter how small, like the way the autumn leaves danced in the wind, or how his son scored a goal at soccer practice. When doubt crept in, he'd pause, breathe deeply, and counter it with Peel's thought-stopping technique. "Cancel that," he'd say aloud, replacing the fear with a vivid mental image of triumph. At home, he shared the book with Clara, and together they'd read aloud, laughing at the absurdity of their old worries. His children noticed the change too. Their father wasn't just present, he was alive, cracking jokes and dreaming aloud about family vacations to the Grand Canyon. But true transformation demands trials, and Elias's came swiftly. Midway through the quarter, the firm announced a high-stakes audit from corporate headquarters. Elias's department was under scrutiny, and his ledger overhaul was the linchpin. The night before the presentation, panic clawed at him. What if it fails? What if they laugh? He paced the living room, sweat beading on his forehead. Clara found him there and guided him to their bed, where they knelt in prayer. Not a desperate plea, but Peel's guided one, focusing on God's infinite power flowing through him. "Visualize it, Elias," she whispered. "See yourself succeeding. Feel the handshake. Hear the applause." In the boardroom the next day, Elias stood tall, his notes crisp and his mind clear. He wasn't the timid accountant anymore. He was a man infused with purpose. As he walked through the slides, charts he'd painstakingly redesigned with optimistic projections, the room fell silent, then murmured in approval. Mr. Hargrove leaned forward, eyes widening. "Hawthorne, this is brilliant. Where's this fire been hiding?" By afternoon's end, the audit passed with flying colors, and Elias wasn't just safe, he was promoted to department head, with a raise that erased the shadows of those overdue bills. Word of Elias's turnaround spread like wildfire. Colleagues sought him out for advice, and soon he was leading informal, positive thinking lunches, passing around dog-eared copies of Peel's book. His home buzzed with renewed energy. Family game nights echoed with laughter, and Elias even started writing his own affirmations for the kids, tucking them into their lunchboxes. Years later, reflecting on that pivotal autumn, Elias would say, "I didn't change the world overnight, but by changing my thoughts, I unlocked a power I never knew I had. It's not magic, it's momentum. One positive step leads to another, until you're running toward dreams you once thought impossible." Elias Hawthorne lived to 92, a testament to resilience. He and Clara traveled the world, their Grand Canyon trip just the beginning. His children, inspired by their father's metamorphosis, pursued bold paths, one becoming a teacher who instilled optimism in classrooms, the other an entrepreneur who built a thriving business on the mantra, "Believe it to achieve it." And through it all, Elias kept that blue book on his nightstand, its pages yellowed but its message evergreen. The power of positive thinking is not a fairy tale. It's a force that can rewrite your story, one thought at a time. If Elias's journey stirs something in you, remember, today is your mirror moment. What affirmation will you speak? What doubt will you cancel? The power is yours. Claim it and watch your life bloom.